From the depths of desperation and public scorn, how is it that celebrities feel so comfortable making risky appearances on Trevor Noah's show? Trevor Noah serves as a conduit for bringing people from the dark to the light and giving them the redemption that they oh so crave. Relationships are nothing without trust and vulnerability. When we don't know how to cultivate an air of trustworthiness and guidance, people will flee from us in their most vulnerable times of need, ultimately killing the relationship. However, there's an opportunity right now to master this skill so the people around us will know that they can come to us in their moments of vulnerability. And it's moments like these that will save relationships. If you've seen the breakdown on Will Smith's side of the exchange, understand that this is completely different and completely new. There are 7 simple tactics that allow us to convey our trust to vulnerable people in their time of need. Following Will Smith's infamous slap, this is his first public appearance, and the audience is foaming at the mouth to hear what he has to say. Trevor starts off the conversation with Will, not by addressing it, but by asking him about his new movie. Before any mention of the incident, pay close attention and see if you can spot the first tactic that Trevor Noah implements.
What is the biggest thing you took away from it? Because it's interesting, you know, I get what your daughter was saying. Do we need another slave movie?
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying about it being a freedom movie. But I feel like each story has a different lesson.
Yes.
You know, because it's a movement, it's a revolution, it's a quest for freedom. What do you think was the biggest lesson you took away from the story?
Anytime you go into these characters and you go this deep into these roles, it changes something about you. You understand something that you didn't understand. The major thing that came through for me with Peter is the power of the direction of love. Love actually is a superpower. You know, when you can fill your heart with that kind of love, it's a propulsion that is unlike any other thing.
They are talking about the movie, but what Trevor has done here is set up the pre-frame for forgiveness. This is 7 minutes into the interview, and before even addressing what they are there for, Trevor aids in setting the correct pre-frame and priming the viewer for this mindset of forgiveness and open-mindedness. The first tactic is to subtly set the pre-frame for forgiveness, because by saying each story has a different lesson, he is not only implicitly addressing the objections that the audience currently has towards Will, but he is also setting Will up for a perfect starting point, one that allows Will to implicitly plead his case before even fully addressing it. Knowing this, there's a reason why Trevor is putting off bringing this main topic up. You see, it is not until over 10 minutes into the interview before the topic of the slap is even brought up at all. This accomplishes 3 things. It first serves as an indicator of respect from Trevor to Will, sending the message that you're not just here for the drama, you're here because I care about you. Secondly, it sends the implicit signal to the audience currently watching that the thing you're waiting for is not as important or necessary as you think it is. Thirdly, instead of Will coming out immediately with a public statement, having it be on the back end of an interview about his movie also serves in implicitly downplaying the justification that the crowd might feel they have in their anger towards Will. The second tactic is to delay what they came for, to downplay its significance. And in this way, the audience begins to question the righteousness of their anger, and strength begins to build on Trevor and Will's end. After this, how Trevor begins to treat Will after he broaches the subject is extremely telling. See if you can spot exactly what Trevor is doing here. If you like these videos, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Every single one counts, and your support means everything.
I can only imagine what it's been like for you, because it has been weird for many of us. You know, you're Will Smith. You know, you are one of the biggest movie stars that has ever existed. You know, one of my favorite people that
Trevor is intentionally not making any sort of eye contact as he finally broaches the topic and says, "I can only imagine how hard it's been on you." Avoiding eye contact while broaching vulnerable moments allows for a sense of detachment. In the same way that people hold their nose when they drink something gross, it limits the amount of stimulus they receive while they are going through the difficult moment. In this case, while Trevor is delivering this message, if they are able to limit the amount of stimulus that they receive in the moment, then they won't have to react to anything or change the speech that they had planned in their head prior to going into this. Withholding eye contact while speaking is also an effective way of communicating to your counterparty that you don't want to claim any power over them or take on a dominant position. This action is so subtle, yet in vulnerable moments between friends, it communicates a deep sense of care. It implicitly sends the message that, hey, I'm walking on a tightrope over here for you, and I'm trying to be as careful as possible because I care about you. The third tactic is do not revel in your position of power. By implicitly acknowledging that this is a sensitive subject and you don't want to be imperious in this moment, it sends the message to your counterparty that you care deeply about them. But how do we communicate to our counterparty that we are here for the right reasons? That we are not just trying to extort them for the drama of it? Pay close attention to how Trevor Noah masterfully deploys this next tactic.
You won your first Oscar that night, a well-deserved Oscar that night, but it is simultaneously, in many ways, not the worst. I won't say the worst because I know the life you've lived. I've read the book.
Trevor explicitly makes it a point to acknowledge that he's read the book. By putting it at the end of the sentence, it adds emphasis and more power than if he were to just say, "I read the book and." This serves in showing personal investment and communicating to Will that, hey, I'm not just here to exploit you in this moment. I really care about you.
I'd love to know. I mean, just, us talking, first of all, what has the journey been like since that day? Like,
Trevor is framing Will's retraction from the public eye as a journey. It sets up the frame so that Will can talk from a position of power, and it attempts to prime Will and make him comfortable enough to share as much as possible.
Everyone speculates. Everyone just sees it and goes, I think this, I think that, I think this, I think that. What has it been like for you?
Yeah, that was a horrific night.
Will leans in as he enters the lion's den. He feels the pressure as he instinctively leans forward, almost as if he has a pile of bricks on his back. The fascinating part here, though, is that Trevor also leans forward the second he notices Will doing it. He wants Will to know, I'm right here with you. I'm willing to bear the same weight that you are in this moment. We are going through this together. After some explaining, Will later brings the topic back onto his movie, and Trevor's response perfectly illuminates the fourth tactic that we will uncover right now.
So Emancipation is Antoine's masterpiece.
That's what I want to ask you about.
He has created an app.
Will pulls the topic back to his movie Emancipation momentarily, and we hear Trevor say, "That's what I wanted to ask you about. Yep." Will is taking the reins in changing the subject and getting past this momentarily. And notice how Trevor is completely accepting of it. Through his acceptance, Trevor wants Will to know that his answer was satisfactory and that he can change the subject now if he wants. And more importantly, Trevor also wants Will to know that he isn't just interested in the drama. He is interested in what Will is doing as a person and his projects. The fourth tactic is to show personal investment and clarify that you are not an extortionist. Trevor sends the message that the main reason he is here tonight is not just to discuss the drama, but to check in on him as a person, because he cares. But once our counterparty trusts us more in this way, how do we facilitate their comfort so that they reveal more about themselves in this moment of vulnerability? Trevor executes this perfectly. See if you can spot it. Special treat for subscribers in the description. Click the link below to claim your unfair advantage.
Human to human, man to man, but like, people have said some shitty things about you and your family.
Absolutely.
You're a human being. I would say this to people, I was like, it's becoming relentlessly shitty now.
Yeah.
And people think it's okay.
Yes.
That's the thing. People think it's okay. And not Chris, by the way. I'm talking about people, the internet, etc.
Trevor intentionally uses this curse word twice. He really emphasizes it. The strategic use of foul language makes us seem more relatable and less of an authority. It takes this from a live TV interview to two friends just having a conversation. Trevor is trying to communicate to Will that if you are indeed dishonorable, don't worry. I am just as dishonorable as you in this moment. I am willing to go there with you in this moment. This sort of relatability is what allows Trevor to then make a judgment of his own without seeming like he's doing it from a place of superiority. The fifth tactic is to show that you are just as fallible. When we show that we are not coming at them from a loftier position, our counterparty is more likely to open up. However, now that Will fully trusts and accepts Trevor, Trevor now needs to help Will in gaining favor with the audience. Watch closely to what he does here.
I was thinking about you coming on the show. You are one of the rare breed of human who has lived more of your life in the spotlight than out of it. You got into this industry as a kid.
By saying you are a rare breed of human, Trevor is again complimenting Will and putting him in a position of power, specifically through that word rare. This sentence also carries with it the implicit message to the audience that if you were in the spotlight just as much, you likely would be bound to have a similar incident eventually as well.
I was chatting to friends and I was like, you know what's interesting here is, for us, this is the Oscars. For Will Smith, this is like a cookout.
Right.
And I'm not diminishing.
Trevor Noah makes another indirect argument to the audience here, one that says, perhaps Will only acted this way because he didn't realize how important this event was to his audience, which then leads to the implication that had Will known the importance, he wouldn't have acted that way because he cares deeply about his audience. The sixth tactic is to humanize them in the eyes of the audience. If you can get the audience to realize your perspective, the audience comes so very close to complete forgiveness. But there's one more thing that's necessary, and if we don't finish the interview with the necessary techniques, all of our progress can potentially be washed away. Watch closely to what Trevor Noah does here to create the perfect conclusion.
The sum of a person is oftentimes how I define them, as opposed to a moment. You know, I think I speak for many people. If I don't, forgive me. But, you know, obviously people were hurt because we love you and we love what you do.
When Trevor looks towards the audience and says, I think I speak for many people, he takes his forgiveness and merges it with the audience to ensure that everyone is on the same page and that there are very few people who are still disappointed. By saying this, Trevor implies that however generous and forgiving that I have been to you this whole time, the audience also feels this way. This does all the grunt work for the audience, and so now all the audience has to do is either agree or disagree. Let's see.
I also think I speak for people when I say, like, I don't want that to define you. I don't think it should define you. You know what I mean? Like,
Thank you.
I don't think...
After speaking on behalf of the crowd, Trevor ends the interview gracefully with this one respectful gesture.
You know, to go out in the world and contribute in a way that fills my heart and hopefully helps other people. You know, so.
I appreciate it.
Trevor offers up his handshake with his palm up, giving Will the dominant position. It is a recognition that Will completely owned his actions and didn't try to run or hide from anything. The seventh tactic is to speak for the crowd and give power back. It is an implicit acknowledgement that you deserve to leave this place in a position of power, given that your participation in this required you to be vulnerable and momentarily put your power up at stake. Trevor Noah has perfectly set up the relational condition with both Will and the audience and was successful in luring Will out of hiding when he was most vulnerable. Most of the heavy lifting, though, was actually done by Will himself through the tactics of storytelling, reframing, and narrative control. Click the video on screen now to watch the completely different in-depth breakdown from Will's perspective and learn how to truly master high-stakes situations such as these. My name's Glidget Ronan, and I'll see you on the other side.